Hello and welcome again to the Get Sustainable show produced by ESBN in partnership with Green Europe Today and Livestream Studio. This week we have the true pleasure in welcoming Lucyna Magda, designer and co-owner of LWM Consulting, one of the leaders in providing advisory services on green buildings, building certifications and sustainable design and architectural solutions. Lucyna, welcome to the Get Sustainable show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Lucyna, perhaps we can start off with some basics. What makes a building green today?
So let's start with saying what is green building process.
Yeah.
So green building process is a way to enhance and complement the classical building design, which concerns on costs, utilities, comfort. In doing so, green building process expands by the aspects such as people, planet, and life cycle costs throughout the building life
construction
cycle,
phase.
Construction, yes. So green buildings are buildings which takes into consideration those aspects that are sometimes not regulated by building regulations and practices, and it focuses on good practices in expanding design so that buildings are sustainable, they sustain longer, and are functional longer.
Yeah, I think the key element of a green building is to ensure that throughout its entire life cycle, it has a net zero or as close to net zero carbon footprint. I mean, that's the goal. How do you feel the realities of such an ambitious goal? Is it possible to achieve?
Actually, buildings as a sector has the biggest potential to achieve to mitigate the carbon footprint in comparison to transport sector or industry sector or aviation. Building has around, according to some research, like the research done by Dr. Diana Urge-Vorsat, there are around 78% options to mitigate the carbon emissions from building sector.
So it offers the largest potential in terms of reduction, realistically speaking, with technologies available or technologies that are coming into light.
Yes, technologies are already available. That's the point. In comparison to, for instance, to supplied part of the energy, it will be much more difficult to change the energy sector to lower the emissions than to achieve reduction of carbon emissions in the building sector, because we already have technologies available like passive design, renewable sources of energy, and we can focus on demand side of the carbon emissions for building sectors.
Now, we talked a little bit about the issues concerning design, building methods, energy use within as well during the construction and also throughout its entire life cycle. But this is all monitored and reported in the certification process. So can you please provide us with an overview of the certification standards available, what the differences are between them, and how these standards are evolving over time?
Of course. So the certifications are a way to rate buildings against some benchmark.
Yeah.
And the progress or how they evolve was that the rating system has been adjusted to the local conditions more and more. All the rating systems started locally, like LEED started in the US, BREEAM started in the UK, and they were focusing on the local conditions, building regulations. DGNB was focused more on operating in Germany, but nowadays all those systems operate also internationally.
Okay.
And I think that's the major breakthrough and progress that has been done, because if you look at the technical aspects, they hadn't been changing so much. Of course, the requirements change in the cycle of 5-6 years, more or less the same cycle as IPCC reports are updated. And most improvement is done in analysis such as LCA and energy consumption. So the energy consumption benchmark is changing, obviously, so are the changes done in the national building regulations regarding the building efficiency in terms of energy consumption.
Okay. So it's interesting that these certifications came out from local conditions and have been adopted internationally. Do you think that's is it right then to for Poland to adopt a certification from that is created for a different region and adopt it here in Poland, or should Poland have its own accreditation system perhaps, or Eastern Europe?
Actually, I don't think we need certifications. I think this is should be a part of the regulation.
Okay.
So I think a major reason why the building costs are rising when building is certified is that someone sees that it's BREEAM or LEED certified, and then the costs are increased.
Okay.
So I think it would be the best if those certifications are
adopted as a standard in legislation.
Yes, we don't need like a third-party certification or verification. I think we need change in the building, the way we build the building and design building. Maybe the sector will benefit if the knowledge about the certification is announced at the end, like when the building is already done.
That's a very, we'll return back to that, but a key area of concern for all of us is reducing our fossil fuel energy dependence in the coming seasons and years. And I know there aren't many quick fixes on existing developments, but these factors, I believe, are critical in undertaking any new building projects. So what design, planning and technological options are available today in passive building projects in the commercial, public and private sectors?
That's true. It's a key problem to lower the dependence on fossil fuels. But I think the biggest challenge is really to meet our goal to reduce the carbon emissions by 40% within 8 years in comparison to emissions from 2010. This is the outcome of the research done and recommendation done by IPCC in 5th and 6th edition. And if we don't do it, we won't be able to reduce the global average temperature by 2 to 1.5 degrees. And we can reach 5 degrees Celsius, which is really detrimental. It's catastrophic. So I think we should focus on the more aspects than energy consumption.
Okay.
And one of the key elements is to have like a holistic view on from my perspective, is building sector. So, for instance, certifications are one of the way to achieve that, because certifications consider not only the energy consumption, but also reducing emissions from transport by shifting the transport that depends on fossil fuels to electrical transport, or allowing the buildings to be more accessible for pedestrians, cyclists, also reducing the number of parking lots, which may be
so reshaping our infrastructure to allow for faster social changes.
Exactly. And the more such buildings appear, and the more people can experience how much the comfort of using such buildings increases. I think the shift is done automatically, but I think it's also a small contribution still. We won't be able to achieve net energy buildings or net carbon buildings even. I prefer net energy buildings than carbon, because with carbon you can capture carbon, you can buy the offsetting of the carbon, which is not the goal. We need to find more sustainable solution. I think the more feasible and more sustainable way to go forward is to reduce the demand. And this can be achieved by improving the envelope of the building, by, for instance, passive design. And passive design is a technology that has been at least 40 years on the market and allows to reduce and improve the comfort of the building. And by reducing the plug loads in the building. And you can also achieve such reduction as 10% by only reducing the efficiency of the building systems or electrical appliances in the house as well.
An interesting factor we noticed in our research is that you have, as LWM Consulting, undertaken some impressive work in the UK alongside local authorities, ensuring that local zoning plans factor in building certification standards into their policy. Is this something Polish local authorities could learn from when determining land use in their areas of government?
I think definitely such demands should be copied in the Polish market. So we cannot rely on the building owners and end users to reduce the carbon footprint. This is the IPCC reports are done for policymakers, for decision makers, and they are done in order to feed them with data necessary to make the decisions
at local levels.
Impose on the future developers and building industry. And I think this is the key. So I think such regulations as at least measuring the carbon footprint should be compulsory.
Yeah, I think it's very encouraging to see that the building sector itself is crying for local authorities to put in stricter regulations so that they can all improve their ways of working and in building and investing. Finally, during one of our previous shows, we learned that the energy used post-construction is far greater than the relative energy required in the development construction phase. How great of an impact can appropriate building use have on reducing energy use, and what advice do you provide to your clients when designing these commercial spaces?
I will start with the end. So I think the key is to measure what energy load you have in the building. And second step is to manage it. So you can manage it if you know what you have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you have enough metering, you will be able to, and this metering is, you have smart controls. This will allow you to put on standby modes, add some appliances, and also to understand that some of the systems should have some more efficient systems like cooling units, HVAC units. Like at the planning and at the design stage, usually you try to lower the cost as much as possible. You do value engineering, but then if you sell it as the premium and say like within 30 years you will have this and this cost, much lower than in comparison to benchmark building, then I think this is the argument you can definitely spell out when you talk with the. So this is what I discuss with the clients. One of the arguments I give also to clients that need advice on passive design is the same. Like you may increase the cost of the construction because you need like more specialty when you construct the passive building. It's like to 2-3% more costly to build the passive house, but then the benefits of comfort and health of the building and the durability of such buildings
is important.
Yes, it's important. It's much more than you can imagine. So this is what I advise.
Thank you very much, Lucyna. A very, very interesting conversation today. Thank you for joining us today. It was really interesting to learn about the nuances behind green buildings and how to overcome some of these challenges we're facing. I'm sure that if any of the issues raised today are of further interest to you, then Lucyna would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So please send these over to our team by direct message on social media or email us at contact@greeneuropetoday.com. Once again, a reminder to you all to subscribe to our ESBN YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, if you want to keep up to date with our latest productions. Our show is also available in podcast form on leading podcast providers. Just search for the Get Sustainable Show. Thank you very much for watching today and see you again next week. Goodbye.